Hi guys, in this video I've made some ginger biscuits and I'm going to decorate them. They're kind of unicorn / mermaid themed. Now I've used a variety of different metal cookie cutters, but I've also used some cutters that aren't actually cookie cutters. So for example, the number 6 cookies that I've made, they're made with like a thin patchwork cutter, I think they're called, just because I wanted the number and I liked it in that style. So some of them I've had to put imprints into the ginger biscuit dough and then cut out with a knife around the imprint, so around the outline that it's made. And then the same for like some Mermaid Tail ones that I've got as well. I did a similar kind of thing where I pressed them in just lightly, so I got the imprint and then cut around the edge. And then I've also used some other things for cookies, so like the unicorn that say sweet stamps embosser, where you can roll it directly into your cookie dough if you want. And I'll show you that again later in the video with fondant as well, guys. I've also, as well as the cookies, used a little chocolate mold and just created some little chocolate shells, chocolate C shapes in advance of my cookies so that they were all set ready. And guys, for the cookie recipe, I'm going to put that below the video as well so you guys can see what went into making the ginger biscuits themselves. So guys, for decorating, I'm going to use some fondant. I'm actually using the Massa, the Mona Lisa Massa for this one. I'm going to use the blue, white and pink. The blue's very dark, so I'm going to mix a bit of white into it when I want to use it. I think I'll probably use a mix of sprinkles. Guys, it doesn't matter if you haven't got the same ones as me. I'll put links below the video to the ones that I'm using, but you know, it's fine. Go for whatever you've got to hand if you've already got some. I'm going to use the same cutters that I've used for the cookies as well. So when I baked the ginger biscuits, we're going to use that same one. So we're going to start with the shell. I've rolled the white fondant nice and thin. You can see on the right hand side the example one, so the one I made earlier. I'm sticking the fondant to my cookie with a tiny bit of royal icing, just a little bit, not too much. And of course I just use that shell cutter to cut it out. Go fairly thin with your fondant because you don't want tons of fondant on. I'm putting some lines down each one, and then we're putting a little bit of a dip in with a large balling tool, and that's where my pearl is going to sit. And I'm going to put some pink dust, so edible dust that we're using here, guys, just around that bottom bit, and it's up to you how far up the shell you want it to go. I've got a ball of white fondant, so I've just rolled it, and then what I've done is dropped it into the sparkling white powder. Now it doesn't look as sparkly on the video as what it looks in real life, and it's difficult to pull out of the pot, so you might have to kind of prick a toothpick or cocktail stick into it to get it out. And you're just going to drop it into that dip. I've just got a little bit of water, or you can use edible glue in that dip, just hold it in place. And then what I think I'm going to do is add a little bit of extra colour coming from the top of each shell, just using a dry brush. You can use more than one colour on each shell. It's really up to you. So this one I've gone for blues. Some of the other ones I went for purples on the top. So you can do a different colour on each shell. Have a play around and, see what colours you like best. But just make sure it's all edible powders, guys, that you are using on these. The palette I'm using is an edible one. Let's go for a bit of pink on this one. Again, I'll put links below the video so you can see what I've used. But you guys get the idea for this one. So we've just cut out the fondant with the same shell cutter that we used for making the ginger biscuits. A couple of lines, a nice pearl dropped in that sparkly white powder, and then a bit of extra colour on the top. I like that one. So these ones are just small ones, cut out with the round cutter. Just using some white fondant again. Now these, you can make as many of these as you want. I've only done 2. These are actually going to sit on a cake that I'm making. I'm going to make that as a separate video for you guys, just so this one's not too long. But I'm putting a little spiral in. And then we'll put some little lines kind of coming out from the spiral. So if you roll your fondant super thin, you might find it harder to put the spiral in, because I'm pressing quite hard with my dresden tool for that. And then I'm just going to dust some colour on. Again, edible powders. I've gone for pink in the middle, and then we're going for a bit of blue around the outer edge. And if you've got a sparkly pearlized powder, that looks quite nice on there too. Or you can shade it. I'm using a bit of darker blue around the outer edge again. Maybe even a bit more purple in the middle. And I'm going to use some gold. So I'm using my edible paint palette. These ones are water activated metallic paints. So you just mix them with water and then we're just going to paint them on. Again, you can use different metallics as long as they're edible, that's fine. So the one that we used the Mermaid Tail for, we have to go fairly thin with the fondant, but if you don't want to use fondant, guys, you can paint straight onto your cookie. So if you want one that's not too sickly with fondant, because I know not everybody likes fondant, you can use the colours as long as they're edible colours and you don't want to make it too wet. So these are my metallic mini palettes. Again, I'll put links below, guys. And all I'm doing is mixing them with water and then just painting directly onto the cookie itself. I'm keeping the paint fairly thick when I paint it on, so it's not too watery. And I've used a mix of the blue, the purple, and then a little bit of the gold. If you do want to use the fondant, go fairly thin because this cutter's not very deep. So it's not a cookie cutter, this one. but it does work nicely for them. So you can see that it does put an imprint in there. So it gives you all that nice texture on those scales. And again, we can paint these up in the same way that we did with the naked ones, the one that hasn't got the fondant on. You can also use the dry powders on this. The dry powders don't stick as well to the one that was the naked gingerbread biscuit. And I've tried to do them in a range of colours. So I've gone for a kind of lilac-y, pale lilac. At the beginning, I showed you I just had 3 colours of fondant. I had the blue, the pink and the white. So this blue Mermaid Tail is the blue fondant mixed with white because the blue is very dark on its own. And then those lilac-y ones are a tiny bit of the blue, a tiny bit of the blue mixed in with that pale pink fondant that I had at the beginning as well. Or again, these metallic paints, which are edible, so they're just water-based, or you activate them with water, I should say. But really get, you know, a bit of each colour on each Mermaid Tail. You can see it looks nice with purples and blues, even a bit of green, but I think the gold really brings it out a lot more as well. And then if you want to put any sprinkles on, you can add some sprinkles. So these big round ones have got chocolate in the middle, I think. I did bite one actually the other day, and one of them that I bit wasn't chocolate in the middle, and it was rock hard sugar. I nearly broke my teeth on it, so just bear that in mind. In fact, maybe these ones are the sugar ones. Just be careful when you're biting the big sprinkles anyway, guys. Put as many or as few on as you like. So now for the number 6. Do you guys remember me saying in the beginning of the video, again, not a cookie cutter, a bit like the Mermaid Tail. So you're just going to use it for the outline, and then you're going to cut out carefully around the edge. And then I've used the Mermaid Tail one just to put the little scale marks in. So just carefully press that into some parts. It's just stuck down with royal icing again. And I'm going to just dust some colour on there. I think we'll maybe go for like a deep pink and purple on the bottom. I'm not going to dust it evenly all over. I just want it in certain parts. I'm going to use the chocolate shapes that I made in this mould earlier. And we're just going to stick these onto it as well. So I've got some pink ones and some white chocolate ones. You can dust the chocolate as well. And then I'm going back to that little mermaid palette that I've got to add a bit of gold. And again, you can add some sprinkles if you want to add some sprinkles. I've got like quite a large selection of sprinkles that I have open all the time. So I'm just picking and choosing colours from each different set that I want. And then this one's nice and easy to use. So earlier we imprinted it straight into the cookie, but if you don't want to imprint it straight into the cookie, you can put it on the fondant. So roll out your fondant, roll this really firmly onto the fondant. Just be careful when picking it up, you don't want to stretch it. I'm going to use a circle cutter, the same size as my cookie. Stick it down again with a bit of royal icing. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint that up. On the naked one, what I'm going to do is use a black pen for the eyes. In fact, I'm going to do that on both, but I'm just showing you on that one first. So the edible pen, I'm just going to draw on the bits that are kind of raised for the eyes. And then we're using that mermaid palette again, mixed with water, to paint on all the other bits. Now, if you want to go for a smaller brush, if you find that easier, then that's fine, but you're just aiming for the bits that are raised. And I'm using the same colour on both the naked one and the fondant one. I don't know which one do you guys prefer. Let me know in the comments below. Do you prefer the naked cookies where you're just getting ginger biscuit, or do you prefer the ones with fondant on? I know a lot of people aren't overly keen on fondant, so you do want to be careful that you're not rolling it really thick on these cookies. And try and mix some of the colours together if you can. So like the stars and the shell, you don't have to do it one solid colour. You can have like half the star one colour, half another. On here I've tried to blend the blue and the green together a little bit. To go for gold on the horn. I've gone for the pink in the middle of the ears. Now I want white ears, but I don't think they stand out very much. So I'm going to swap to the sparkly white powder for those. But just in the meantime, I'm going to just add a bit of extra powder just around the outer edge. When I say powder, I mean edible dust. It does kind of work on the naked one, but I think maybe I ruined it by putting this on it. It makes it look a bit burnt on the edge, to be honest. So you're fine painting the middle bits on the naked one, but maybe avoid the outer edge ones. So this is the sparkly white that I used earlier for dipping those pearls for the cookie that you can just see on the side in. We're going to use these on the outer edge of the ears. This actually shows much better on the naked cookie than the one with fondant. I still think I like the one with fondant best. But what do you guys think? Which do you prefer? Now, I created these shapes for a unicorn horn. I actually made these so they'll stick on top of a cake. And I'm going to show you that cake in another video. So we just want to cut out the fondant so it's the same size and shape as the cookies. We're going to put some lines in, going diagonally across. And you could curve it round a little bit with your fingers if you like. Let's get some colour on it. I'm going back to those metallics, those water activated paints, and just brushing that on. You can use different shades of gold and silver on it. It doesn't have to be one flat colour throughout. I'm trying to go darker on the outer edges so that the middle bit looks a little bit lighter, so it looks like it's got light reflecting on it. Even a bit of bronze on there just to darken it more. Well, let's go on with a bit of that sparkly white as well. I do like the sparkly white. Again, it shows a little bit better in person than it does on camera. And if you think the unicorn horn looks a bit plain, you can add some sprinkles. I'm going to go for rainbow coloured sprinkles on these ones, I think. Maybe the little mermaid tails would have looked nice. There's also unicorn horns actually in these ones, but the unicorn horns, they're not going to show on this because they're the wrong colour. Okay, so I've got my selection of cookies there ready. Some of them are going to go on top of a cake, and I'm going to get that video ready for you in a few days' time. But there you go, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more cookie videos, please do let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click like and subscribe to my channel so you can see new videos weekly. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and more.